Hi everyone, it's Annie Mathias, and today I am going to be doing a live Q&A presentation about creativity. Um, I hope that you are able to join me, and if you have any questions, please ask. I'll try to take care of your questions, as well as I have some questions which were previously asked. So let me just start by saying that I think that creativity is for everyone, that we are all creatives, and that we all have the ability to use creativity in many ways. It's really exciting because these days scientists are starting to see the value of creativity. It's not just about artists or poets standing off over here doing their creative thing, but it's about using our creative talents for many problem solving, teaching, all of that type of thing. So it's a wonderful subject to delve into. It's a wonderful subject to learn more about. I had a conversation with Balt, and he was talking about, oh, hi, Maria. Glad to have you here. And he was talking about, he was doing a Facebook Live about creativity. And I said, he said, it seems like we're both talking about a similar subject. And I said, it's like both of us taking pictures of the entire solar system or the entire universe. It's so huge. And I just finished watching his Facebook Live, and it was wonderful. Mine will be different because we're different people, but there's so many different parts of this subject. One person wrote to me and said, I love that the topic is creativity is not just for artists. My question is, how and where do you find inspiration to create your beautiful pieces and music? What advice do you have for people who think they have no creative bones in their bodies? First of all, I'd say everybody has creative bones. For whatever the reason, sometimes we're told as a child that we are not creative. Hi, beloved. Thank you for being here. Sometimes as a child, we're told that we're not creative, or that we can't sing, or we're kind of shushed early on. Try and draw a picture, and we think it might be the most wonderful thing, and somebody goes, oh, what is this? Why aren't you doing your math homework? And so there's a conditioning that goes on in the way that we think about creativity. And a lot of times we will take it on, we will embrace it, we will believe it as truth. And I'm just going to tell you that I know people who are accountants who are very creative. And I'm not talking about creative accounting. I'm talking about the way they do research or the way they think. There is a creativity that works in their mind for coming up with new things, coming up with new ways. Creativity, as defined by Wikipedia, is a phenomenon whereby something new and somehow valuable is formed. The created item may be intangible, such as an idea, a scientific theory, musical composition, or a physical object like an invention or a literary work or a painting. So scholarly interest in creativity now includes many definitions like engineering, psychology, teaching, cognitive science, education, philosophy, as well as theology, sociology, art, all of these. Because the way, hi Nicole, welcome. Oh, thank you so much, you guys, for joining me. The way that creativity works isn't just in painting and in music and in, all of that. It works in all of our lives. And so I think the very first thing is to let go of that old paradigm that I'm not creative. We are all creative, all of us. Because I did an interview yesterday with Jacqueline Best, and we are talking about a series that I put together. It's called The Creative Breath. Creativity is like breath. If you're not creative, you're not breathing. We might just not know what creativity looks like in our lives. And a lot of times too, creativity, we've been told, oh, you can't do your art, or you can't work in clay, or you can't play some music until you're done with the real work. It's almost like creativity has been treated as a dessert. Well, let me tell you, eat your dessert first. It's not really a dessert. That's just the way that it was understood to be. But we're moving into new paradigms. We're moving into new ways and new understandings. And your creative side is actually a very powerful way to change your life. Thank you, Kate. And so in the second part of this question, how do you come up with all your ideas for creative? Well, I happen to be one of these ones which I love all different forms of creativity. And sometimes people are creative mostly in one way. Other times they're creative in a variety of different ways. I have dreams. That's one of the ways that I have ideas for things. My finger labyrinths, for instance, I had a dream about those. Or sometimes I'll just hear it in the depths of my being. Sometimes I'll see a picture of something when I'm working or when I'm writing. It's just like kind of watching on a screen. I will see the pictures and I will go, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. Or sometimes there'll be a feeling of galloping on a horse. Not really, I'm saying metaphorically, but there'll be this freedom that will come out of me, and it's just like, oh, I really want to do that. And so there's different ways that I have learned over the decades to listen to creativity. Some of the videos that you guys have seen, for instance, the one about the flower storm, I had written that little piece years ago. And because of all the unrest and all the stuff that's going on in our world today, I just knew that I had to put that out. It's a metaphor of people getting along. But I didn't just want to show that one picture that's in the book. And so I went to sleep that night and I thought, please help me to know how to portray this video. I woke up in the morning having a picture of using all different kinds of flowers photos that I've taken, and some of my art cards. And so I began to put that together and it flowed. Sometimes creativity doesn't always flow. Sometimes I will take something I'm working on, get to a certain point, and then just have to set it aside for a little bit until I'm ready for the next step. It's just part of the process. And understanding and knowing that it's okay however you are is okay is a good thing. Another question I had, and if you guys have any questions, please ask. I'm so happy you came. This is really fun, but kind of scary too. I do public speaking, but I'm kind of watching the screen and I'm on my laptop so I can see it really well. Usually I just use my phone. But another question from Maria was, what advice do you have for anyone who has left hemisphere dominant to rebalance their life and add more right hemisphere activities? You know, I've had the pleasure of working with people like this. I have one dear friend now who's a neuroscientist, brilliant. And after she heard me playing the flute at a particular presentation in the didgeridoo, she came to me and she said, will you teach me how to use the other side of my brain? I've always worked in the left side and I feel like I need to use my right side. So I began to teach her how I teach to play the native flute, which is it can be a fairly simple instrument. I've used it to teach the bereaved as well as cancer survivors because it gives us a voice beyond our out loud words. And it's they're all in one key. There's 6 holes, so you can't get too complicated with that. And she learned the basics. Doesn't take very long. And then I taught her how to play from the heart. Instead of playing songs, we became the song. And I'm just saying this really quickly, but it's not a difficult concept. Sometimes for people who have been very structured, it can seem scary because the structure is gone, but to just let yourself go and begin to enter into this place of being the song. Well, that is a way of playing from the heart or intuitively. And we have spent many, many, many afternoons playing for our country in my living room, the two of us. We will play intuitively. We will play from the heart in this kind of a manner. Now, this is not using the left side of the brain. It's not, oh, we have to play this note and thinking about the process. It's just letting ourselves become lost in the flow. And that's a really powerful, wonderful thing. And I have helped so many people do that. People who say, I don't know how to switch the sides of my brain. Well, it's very possible. It may surprise you, but when I went for my master's degree, I had to take a statistics course, gulp. And I actually took in with me colored markers. And I did my final presentation in a way that I would do to people who didn't know anything about statistics. And I made it very colorful. It had all the statistical requirements in there. So I was using both sides of my brain, and it was really successful because I don't believe that somebody is only on one side. They could be much more dominant on one side, but I think that there's a need for that rebalancing, especially as sometimes we get older. we're not so much into that identity of who we are, and we want to explore and we want to grow. And it's really a wonderful thing. So I hope that answered your question, Maria. I think that if you were to find something that you enjoy, give yourself the space to do that. Give yourself permission. And the same for Pasita, who said, I think there's some people who don't have a creative bone in their body. Well, if we allow ourselves a space and give ourselves permission to explore, to be able to say, this doesn't really count. I'm just exploring. I'm just practicing. And so you take that pressure away. I think one of the things too that happens is that people become the performance pressure. It's like they think of creativity as standing up and being at Carnegie Hall. Well, that can require creativity, yes. And our skill sets also allow us to move into the creative mode. But performance only is not, in my book, necessarily creativity. That's performing. Creativity is when you allow what's inside of you to come out. When you put your hands in the clay and you might not know what is in there to be said. I have had this experience a lot where I will sit and work, not when I'm producing things for my shop, but when I'm just sitting and working with the clay. On 9/11, I had a large packet of very deep brown reddish clay. And as I'm listening to the horror of what was going on, I took that clay out of the package and I just began to work the clay and began to create. And what came out was an incredible piece. I didn't have it planned, but it was my intuitive self speaking, expressing the extreme horror and the sadness that I saw. When I write, oftentimes, and this is how I teach writing also, when I write, I will sit down and I will allow my inner self to come forth on the page. And a lot of times I will read and I'll go, oh yeah, that's exactly what's going on. So my writing really helps me. And I've taught writing this way for years because, of course, there's a correct way to teach writing like you learn in school or that a teacher would teach you. But writing creatively, intuitively is so powerful. It gives us a deep window of understanding into ourselves. Let's see. Oh, somebody else said, Catherine said, I'm a very creative person trapped in a practical person's body. I love this. Music is my passion and I love to sing, but it's reconciling that with my very practical business. How to find a balance and not get caught up in a day-by-day grind, which is easy, and still feel the joy of making music. I think, again, it's allowing ourselves permission, looking at some of those old belief systems that we have carried around with us for so long. And it's difficult too if you are in a business that you're very good at and it's, very practical and it's your means of making income. And people are always saying, oh, you're so good at such and such and such. And yet this music is calling out inside of you. Perhaps you dream in your dreams, you're hearing this music playing or whatever. And it's honoring that part of us. There was a time in my life when I was probably 17 years old and I had a dream that just really bothered me. I had graduated from high school and I was getting ready to move on to the next part of my life. And there was a woman, she was young. She was standing on the apron of our farm and she stood there and she said to me, so you're just going to leave? You're just going to walk out and leave and just leave me here? It took me a long time to realize that woman was my art side. In my dreams, I had that knowing that I was leaving my art behind. I'd had a lot of struggles with being a creative. That's been part of my journey. And I think that's why I have such a passion about it. But it took me a long time to really understand that dream. But when I did, I began to move back into incorporating the two parts of my life. Now, we might not always have a job where we're able to be, as an artist, I was an office manager. I've been all sorts of things. I counseled people for a lot of years, but I learned to allow space for my creativity. It didn't happen overnight. It was a practice. It was a decision. Sometimes it was 2 steps forward and 1 step back, sometimes 1 step forward and 2 steps back. But it's been something which I have been aware of and worked on. And there was often other times too, like the time that I hurt my hand and I was told I wouldn't be able to work with my right hand anymore. Now, as a writer, a professional writer, and a creative, that was very difficult. So I learned to write with my left hand. And out of that actually came a book that I wrote with my left hand. So there's been, and then of course, as we all know, what doctors say aren't always true. I'm ambidextrous. I use my right hand all the time and my left hand too. So, but what I would say to that is allow your body to speak, allow your spirit to speak, allow yourself to go in deeper and look at some of those places that you might really enjoy. My scientist friend has recently taken up photography. She's got a wonderful eye. She didn't know that for the past 50 years, but she does. She has a beautiful eye to see photography. It's a matter of what is it if you could do something, what would you like to do? Does anyone have any questions? I'm kind of talking a lot here. Oh, it says pin comment. I'm not sure what that means. Anyhow, it's a huge subject. It goes on and on and on. Love your insights and not teaching at people. Thank you from the heart. Way to go. Love your passion and all your stories. Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Maria. One of the things that I'm going to be working on, as some of you know, hi, Bob. As some of you know, I've come through a situation with my ear, and I have 1 more week to go where I can't lift anything over 5 pounds. So I'm really looking forward to getting back into playing music and my clay work and different types of things. But it's been a good time of reflection. And one of the things that I'm doing is I'm developing some mini courses, 2-week courses, 1-day workshop types of things, because I know that people are busy and sometimes having a commitment for a lot of weeks for a class is big. So I'm developing some mini courses like my storytelling class. Storytelling is such good medicine for all of us. And as we tell our stories, as we are heard with our stories, it's powerful what comes out. And you've seen some of my stories in videos. I've started putting some of those together and putting some of my own musical soundtrack with it, so I don't have to worry about asking for permission. But thank you, Balt said, very engaged, beautiful. Thank you. Coming from a fabulous musician like Balt. Anyhow, so I'm excited about doing some of my stories and really having a forum where we can bring our stories together and meet in a Zoom room and share our stories, because that's so healing. Part of what I do too with creativity, of course, is healing. Some of you may know that I worked in a cancer center for quite a while. I've worked with the bereaved. I do crystal bowl meditations for healing, all of this. So it's a combination of how to honor that which is sacred and to use creativity in that. Okay. Any other questions? I just really appreciate all you guys being here. This is wonderful. Do you ever wonder what is the best way to express your creativity since you have so many options? Jacqueline asks. Sometimes, but not usually. I know we all have that sense of knowing. I don't know really how to explain it. It's just that inner knowing. And so sometimes if I sit down to produce something, I think, oh, this would be wonderful in this modality. And it can also be seen in a couple modalities. Like I was talking about before with some of the videos I've done, I've taken some stories that I put together in a book. This is a little book that I wrote. It's called Metaphorically Yours. I hope you can see that right side out. But it's a course that I have about teaching people how to hear their inner stories. Now, this book is about my inner stories, and there's in the introduction, it talks about how to discover your inner stories. It's not very hard. It was just something that was given to me. And then, of course, and then there's a CD that I recorded of me reading the stories. And then recently, it just seemed right to put some of those into video because we live in 2017, and sadly to say, not everybody loves to read a book, but they'll watch a video. And so we can also take our ideas and use them in different modalities. We can give a talk, but then we can also maybe make a video about that. Or we can share from the heart, maybe a song, but then we can also write about it or do a painting or. So really the sky is the limit. I always think of creativity as being limitless. I see source or God as infinite, and creativity is the same way. I think that, we have just barely scratched the surface. I just barely have stuck my little toe into the water, and it's endless and wonderful. I also find that when I'm walking in the creative flow, I have energy. When I'm not in a creative mode, I'm tired. But when I kick into the creative flow, it's just like, oh, I'm so excited to be alive. I'm ready to get up. I'm ready to do what is before me today. Balt says, I connect with this limitless approach. I agree. Yeah. And the deeper in I go, like I said, I'm just sticking my little toe in, but the deeper in I go, the vaster it is. I don't know if any of you have seen some of my videos using the astrophotography that comes out of Michigan. I have a brother-in-law who does beautiful astrophotography from his observatory, and he lets me use it. There's one that I have up on YouTube. It's called The Universe Within, and it's talking about our inner universe and the outer universe. And of course, it's a poem that I wrote, and then there's crystal bowls playing in the background, but it has all these beautiful photos that he has taken. And to me, it's such an incredible metaphor, because as we expand, as we grow, as we allow ourselves to get out of the way and allow that essence of creativity, that essence, the God force, to move through us and use us and be a channel, it's amazing how vast. And 20 years ago, I would have never thought that somebody would buy me a kiln, that I would be doing what I'm doing, that I'm doing videos, but it just keeps opening up. And so I just want to encourage all of us to continue to move forward and allow ourselves to grow. Okay, I'm getting kind of long-winded, I think, but any other questions? And then I think I'll maybe wrap this up, because I've been going on and on for 19 minutes, and I so appreciate you all being here. Thank you. Any other questions? Well, thank you, my friends. Thank you for showing up and all your encouragement. And I just feel really like I have a special relationship with my friends in the Lighted Up video group. It's amazing. Probably because I've gotten to watch your videos and people have gotten very real. That's one thing about creativity too, is it allows us to move into our authentic self, which I think is the best and only place to be. But I think it's a lifetime quest. So thank you, Maria. Oh, love listening to you. Happy weekend. Happy weekend to all of you too. Thanks again. Bye.